State Department of Health Services has confirmed the first case of coronavirus here in Wisconsin. Brings the total number to 8 now.
Dane County is at 25 new positive cases.
More than 10,000 cases statewide.
48 more people have died.
One person is now dying every 40 seconds.
Madison and Dane County leaders are implementing new rules tonight, banning mass gatherings.
Issuing a safer at home order isn't something I thought we'd have to do.
We have seen so much suffering and loss.
I miss him. I really miss him.
I was on the floor crying, and I really thought that maybe my kid was going to grow up without a mom.
Months in the making, a COVID-19 vaccine is here in the Madison area.
First group of healthcare workers in Wisconsin received their first shot.
I was actually surprised by how emotional the experience was.
Next year at this time, when we're talking, we're going to have Thanksgiving.
We know a lot of you have questions about the coronavirus. Well, today we took a doctor from UW Health out on the streets with us so that people could ask him questions. It's interesting to see what happens when you take a doctor out of his office and put him on the streets.
I feel like it's weird for them to see a doctor outside of the hospital.
I mean, it is. There's not too many of us standing on State Street in a white coat.
How dangerous is the coronavirus?
You'll hear a lot in the news that influenza is killing more people than coronavirus, and that's technically true. But if you look at the number of people who get really sick from coronavirus versus the number of people who get really sick and potentially die from flu, coronavirus has a much higher mortality rate than influenza.
If I were to think I have it,
yeah.
Is there a way to get tested now or not, or how complicated is that?
Yeah, I'd say what we recommend is if individuals think that they might have the coronavirus or just want to have questions answered about the coronavirus, UW Health has a hotline staffed by healthcare professionals who can walk you through whether you need to get tested or whether you don't.
During hard times and challenges, when the only thing that's certain is the uncertainty ahead, try to look for the helpers.
I love when we have the success stories.
We found two of them, these days called Essential. One, a nurse. Her name is Sydney.
He works for UPS,
and a delivery driver, Hayden.
he's a super guy.
Both 24 years old, both continuing to work through the worry, and both looking for help themselves.
When I first became symptomatic, it was a sore throat, a little bit of a dry cough.
Two essential workers, the same age with similar symptoms. What's the difference?
In the ideal world, you test everyone.
Lisa Schnedler is the CEO of Upland Hills Health in Dodgeville. She says a testing shortage has hospitals statewide making hard decisions about who gets tested and who doesn't.
We have to be very judicious about who gets a test, and that's not how you are supposed to handle a pandemic.
Dane County has more people in the hospital for COVID-19 right now than ever before.
And tonight, for the very first time, we're getting a look inside. What was supposed to be a unit designed for patients recovering from brain surgery is now an emergency coronavirus unit at UW Hospital.
Looking at this unit paints a picture of just how unusual this is.
Dr. Jeff Potoff, who serves as the hospital's chief quality officer, says these halls are a sign of the times.
Our numbers in Wisconsin are really pretty out of control. We don't have anything that tells us that things are about to get better, that we're just about out of this. If anything, it looks like our curve will continue to move on a fast upward trajectory.
This space offers 12 beds, in addition to the 12 in UW's Trauma and Life Support Center a few halls over. And even then, space is getting scarce. Potoff says if cases don't start dropping, pre-op rooms, even operating rooms could soon turn into COVID care rooms.
There is a woman in the heart of Wisconsin who wants you to understand tonight the hole that COVID left in her heart.
Doesn't get easier. We just have to kind of deal with it.
Dealing with it.
I'm going to go out pretty soon and talk to him.
Is why Faye Quinlan traveled from Madison to hunt alone in her cabin in Jackson County.
And I want to be here because this is a place he loved, and this is where we spent so many happy times.
Because of the pandemic, Faye hadn't seen him in 8 months.
But for all of us that have had to wait and are still waiting, it's difficult. It's very difficult.
It strained us. It strained our strain our hospital systems.
42 people have died from COVID-19 at the King Veterans Home, about 10% of the roughly 400 who live there.
We are what's between them and this virus, and we need to take those precautions seriously.
In line with other nursing homes around the state where citations follow outbreak inspections, safety procedures at VA homes have evolved. At Union Grove in Racine County, inspection records from August found times where staff weren't wearing full protective equipment with residents. After an outbreak with 10 deaths in August, Congressman Brian Stile called for a federal investigation, which today he said still hasn't happened.
News 3 Now presents Names Behind the Numbers.
A flurry of numbers, hundreds of thousands of COVID cases in Wisconsin alone, thousands of people hospitalized, and the most sobering number, more than 4,000 deaths.
We've compiled and shared those statistics with you daily to keep you informed of the most significant health crisis of our time. But tonight we're going behind the numbers, hearing directly from the people who are those figures.
I told them that, and I said, I don't want to go on a ventilator. When they all came around me and said, you have to do it now or tell us how you would like to die comfortably.
She died on August 8th, so a little over 4 months, but every day it just hurts all over again.
Meteorologist Gary Canalti.
But for several weeks this fall, we were without Gary. COVID put him in the hospital.
But by Tuesday and Wednesday, I was really knocked down. And even, that's when I started, just getting out of bed and going to the bathroom. I was almost out of breath.
Tina, is the arrival of the vaccine a little bittersweet for you?
Selfishly, it's the first thing I thought of is, wow, just a few months later and maybe my parents could have been helped.
People are running. I don't know.
On fire right now. Sorry, I'm trying to do my job.
What is it about this moment that has pushed it to this brink?
We've seen this movie before.
Conversation with some of the African-American leaders in the Madison community.
What if he just came out and shot me because of the color of my skin?
We've had some opportunities to march with some of the protesters.
The idea is to be able to express black thought freely.
Privilege, my color, can't afford.
Let me use the artistic side of Orlando to figure out if I can inspire.
Cell phone video captures the moment a black man was shot by Kenosha police.
National Guard members are preparing for another night of protests.
Between 50 and 100 cars destroyed.
Man in Kenosha who can tell you personally how this kind of shooting feels.
He helped change state law.
You need to look at it and not blame, but find the root cause.
Real question has got to be, white Madison, white Dane County, what's going on?
Madison has joined the growing list of locations where protests are happening. Went on peacefully, but once it ended, a group broke into a jewelry store on State Street. Our Gabriela Becerra has been there all afternoon. Gabby, what's happening now?
It was a very peaceful protest for the most part all day, but about an hour after it ended, protesters came back, started marching down towards off of State Street, off of the Capitol, and came down towards Goodman's Jewelers. And they took a stick and they took turns hitting it, finally broke glass. Things are progressing very quickly. But you can still kind of see remnants of it, but they just dropped a lot of pink tear gas and people just came running towards the top of State Street. People are turning over plants.
Gabby, it's hard to tell who is just watching and who is involved in this violence.
More tear gas was just dropped. So, yep, here comes, oh, shoot! Oh.
Gabby, are you okay?
Yeah, Amanda, we made it out. They threw tear gas right by us.
Still,
oh, no, they're dropping more tear gas. Let's go.
Oh. We want to make sure Gabby gets to a safe spot before we talk to her again. It looks like there was some more tear gas.
We have someone actually using milk right now to get the tear gas out of their eyes. People are throwing things at the police officers. Somebody is approaching the officers. They're pushing them back. They're pushing them back.
People are running. I don't know. They're running and attacking the cops right now. Lance, come on.
You want to know the truth? You want to know the truth? You want to know the truth? The truth is, Madison's racist, the United States is racist, and this bitch is racist. That's the fuck.
All right, it seems like we obviously have some emotional language out there. I'm sorry about that. Are you okay out there, Jamie? We have our Chris Stanford there now. Chris, can you tell me what you're seeing out there?
Yeah, you're looking right at Gorham and Broome, where this police car is on fire right now. Sorry, I'm trying to do my job here. It was driven down from State Street into this intersection by someone while the vehicle was on fire. Let's push in, let's give a closer look. You're gonna hear occasionally some bullets ignite. There's a little flash right there, but we've been hearing some of the things inside of that vehicle go off. And we've been hearing sounds like that for the past 10 minutes or so since this thing started burning. Some of the ignitable materials inside of the vehicle have been going off. We've been hearing a lot of pops from the ammunition that's in the vehicle.
And if you're just joining us at the top of the hour, we've reached the 10 o'clock hour now. You're looking at 2 live looks.
Right now they're chanting no justice, no peace, and they're standing in front of their cop car that's in front of all the officers that are standing here, just almost looking like a standoff. They're moving towards them. Oh, okay. Oh my God. We're gonna toss. Okay. Did you get that, Lance? Okay. So what you just they
said it looks like firefighters.
The officers just moved forward and just it seemed like they just pushed the crowd back.
Firefighters just showed up to this burning police vehicle here at the corner of Broome and Gorham. And as they start to put that fire out, you see there is nothing left.
They're moving in, pushing them out of the way, and people are throwing. Oh.
Yeah, this is.
Oh, there's fireworks.
Obviously creating a very dangerous situation for officers. They don't know at that point in time what that object is.
Just take a look at the shell of this vehicle. That is all that's left. Everything inside is burned out. My photographer and I were just talking before you guys took us that we had no idea there was that much to burn inside of a vehicle, how intense those flames were, and for the amount of time that they were burning.
In the morning, we're going to see the sun come up. We're going to see the extent of the damage, and a group is already making plans to clean up State Street in the morning.
Volunteers here cleaning up some shattered doors, the windows of doors outside of the university bookstore. So now one thing the volunteers have been told is to just kind of help fix private property, because city workers are able to get, damage that was done in the streets, damage that was done on sidewalks, but it's this private property that they need volunteers to help clean up. And look right here along the curb here. This is the window from Wagstack that was broken out.
After last night's chaos, the National Guard will be helping out police in downtown Madison tonight. Our Madeline O'Neill joins us live on State Street with a look at how things are going tonight. Maddie, it was peaceful. It sounds like some things may have changed.
This is a much different scene than we saw even 10 minutes ago.
And it looks like they're forming another group over there.
We've got more pepper spray right now from the officers at that one line. These are the people that we've been walking with all day, protesting, and now we're seeing the conflict. More sprayed being deployed. I mean, really hitting people close on there. That will be the first arrest that we have personally seen. Oh, and it looks like, is that another arrest?
Another.
Yes, we have another arrest.
It is such a difference tonight.
Trexel, get away! There's glass that's about to break at the State Historical Museum. Ivory room's been broken into.
You can see the glass broken there in the front.
Amanda, we're moving out of the way because there are people with bats, long wooden sticks.
Oh, yes, we can see that. People with sticks.
If we look farther down the street, that's towards Gorham, they're beating up someone. are right in front of the dumpster fire. It seems to be the dumpster is almost completely melted away. We can see a second line of police. There's a very heavy law enforcement presence out here. Most of the people I've seen lately have all been observers of what's been going on and not taking part in any of the violent acts.
And it started out this morning with Good Samaritans on State Street cleaning graffiti off of the Overture Center and sweeping up broken glass. But for the second night in a row, what started as a very successful, peaceful protest ended in chaos and violence.
Listen, don't just hear. That's what people rallying outside the Capitol for months are begging you to do.
Jamie Perez took the time today to listen.
They know what they've done to us.
Every day at the top of State Street.
The crowds grow, the crowds are always different.
For months now.
All across this country, they know what they've done to us.
You can find a new crowd of people.
Say that Black Lives Matter.
Coming together for a common cause. The message, one they describe as unifying, empowering, supportive of a good cause.
There's so much love here. This is a group of people coming together because they deeply care for a community in our country who is being disproportionately affected by police brutality and a system that wasn't made for them.
They know that many people don't want them here, which is exactly why these people say their message now needs to be heard every day.
You're just hearing the noise. You're not listening to what we have to say. It's about you need to listen. You need to come out and see what we're actually doing out here because it's more than just noise. It's a message that needs to be spread.
Well, there are certainly a lot of people, though, that have had a lot to say about how Madison police have handled the unrest. The chief and I recently talked about the past 2 months.
It's certainly been a pretty, stressful 10 months, not just for me. It's been stressful for everybody in the department. The officers are out doing the real hard work, the heavy lifting. I know and they know the good work that they do every day and the difference and the contributions they make to our community. And unfortunately, those things in the current climate just aren't getting recognized.
Madison Police Department is incorporating a new, unique kind of tactical training for its officers, meditation.
Every day presents new challenges and new encounters.
A day in the life of a police officer is constantly moving. Finding a sense of balance along the way can mean finding stillness.
It just kind of gives me a sense of relaxation.
Feel the floor beneath your feet.
Officer Matt Kenny now teaches that mindfulness.
Gently return your attention.
In 2015, Kenny responded to a home on Willie Street that ended with him shooting and killing 19-year-old Tony Robinson.
Occasionally people ask me, how am I still here? Well, this is how, this practice.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us on Facebook Live this afternoon. I'm Susan Simon, along with Jamie Perez and Mark Kane. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation with some of the African-American leaders in the Madison community.
We've seen this movie before. Seen one unarmed black man murdered in the street. Seen 2, public unrest, tear the city up, burn the city down. Seen 3, not guilty, burn the city again. We've been here before.
I'm an avid runner, and for the first time, I saw a white man coming in the opposite direction of me, and I froze. I literally felt my heart stop, and I thought, what if he just came out and shot me because of the color of my skin?
The real question has got to be, white America, white Madison, white Dane County, what's going on? And how has this happened on our watch? And what role have we had in leaving this legacy to our children? I would love to see you all get white community leaders in these chairs and ask, how do you feel witnessing what's happened in America?
That is what brought us to today. That is why you guys are all here, and thank you so much for being so generous with your time to do this with us today. We did invite members of the African American community to join us today. In fact, I asked Reverend G to come this afternoon, but as you heard him say, he feels like this is an opportunity for the African American community to hear from some of the white influencers in the community, all of us that are in positions of power and great responsibility as the community moves forward now to come up with where we go from here.
I see this moment as a real opportunity, and we had an opportunity when the Race to Equity report came out in this community, which really catalyzed the beginning of this conversation in Madison. So I think that there's a lot that has happened to raise awareness in the community about structural and institutionalized racism and the impacts of that. I think what we're seeing now is the frustration that that hasn't translated into action.
We've had some opportunities over the last couple of weeks to march with some of the protesters and to have some contacts with community leaders and really show that there's a tremendous amount of common ground that we have. We want to get to the same place.
Chancellor, from a UW system perspective.
We will only make progress on this when the white community starts seeing systemic racism and behaving differently and acting on that. And we're an educational institution. And at this moment in time, I think there is more interest among our white faculty and staff and students in engaging in this issue than I have ever seen.
Quality and change. Those are just a few of the words written on a new wall in Madison. It's part of a project the YWCA hopes will help turn those words into action.
The scraping of chalk now breaks the silence behind the Urban League on South Park Street.
The idea is to be able to express Black thought freely in a sacred space.
That sacred space was blessed during a ceremony on Monday, calling to mind the suffering of Black people past and present. It's a sanctuary for Black people and their thoughts.
What does it mean to center Blackness? And what does it mean to center Blackness here in Madison?
What started as a project in Oakland, California.
Really a space for folks to witness, honor, and protect.
Now has a home on Madison's South Side. This project, called the Black Thought Wall, is intended to spark conversations about race that are long overdue.
Ready for a change. We're all ready to get to this, hopefully, place of freedom and true freedom and what that looks like.
Cell phone video captures the moment a Black man was shot by Kenosha police in the back last night. We have edited the video, so it does not show 29-year-old Jacob Blake getting shot, but you can hear multiple gunshots. Blake is leaning into his SUV. His attorney says his 3 children are sitting inside the vehicle as this shooting takes place.
Police and National Guard members are preparing for another night of protests in Kenosha. Last night, people set cars on fire, smashed windows, and clashed with officers in riot gear. 3 officers have been placed on administrative leave, and state authorities are now investigating. Jacob Blake's fiance is responding to the shooting that happened after a domestic incident call. Lakeisha Booker says she did not call police and that Blake was unarmed.
They didn't even know the kids was in the car. And I'm telling the woman cop, I'm like, can you please get back? If I shoot you, get back.
Jamie Perez is live in downtown Madison, where protesters are demanding changes in the capital city.
But first, we go to Gabriella Beccaro with how Kenosha residents are reacting tonight.
In just the last 10 minutes, law enforcement has stepped out onto the steps of the Kenosha County Courthouse. This is just across the street from Civic Center Park, where protesters have been gathering all afternoon. A night of protesting.
May we hold each other in prayer.
Giving way to a day of retrospection.
When moments like these come, we take our time and we're patient and we listen to each other.
News 3 Now this morning.
Thank you for being with us, everyone. I'm Chris Stanford. Anger and rage on full display on Wisconsin streets overnight as those protests continue.
This is a dealership, and it really looks like a wasteland. I mean, look at some of these cars. They are completely torched. If I had to count, maybe 3 dozen, 4 dozen, truly looking like a wasteland. And something that I can't show you, but I can tell you, is the smell here is so strong. You can smell the rubber, you can smell the burnt out cars. Now, we have shown you just a fraction of the damage. I mean, 3 dozen cars here, just a fraction of the damage across the city.
This is Danny's Pub right in the corner of Broome and Gorham Streets. This was one of the businesses targeted overnight. And now I want to walk you down here. This was one of the images that was really going viral overnight. This is right in front of the mural of Barack and Michelle Obama. There's a dumpster fire there.
Good morning, Facebook. This is Josh Ritter coming to you from State Street this morning as we're following up on more damage overnight due to rioting. We're going to give you a closer look at some of that new damage this morning. A lot more of these businesses have been broken into after another night of unrest across State Street.
Just outside of the county courthouse is where we are now. This is where the center of the protests happened these past 2 nights. Now, it's quite quiet on this street. You can see some debris left over overnight, but protests here really wrapped up around 4 a.m., still hours after a citywide curfew was put into place. We'll get to those details in a minute, but first I want to show you what's left over. This city vehicle was hit last night. Look at the damage. It's still smoking.
There is a man in Kenosha who can tell you personally how this kind of shooting feels.
Kenosha police shot and killed Michael Bell's son more than 15 years ago. He's worked for change since then.
Bell's son, Michael Jr., was shot and killed by Kenosha police in 2004. He was stopped in front of his home after a night out with friends. Bell is working to make sure that officers are trained better, and he's proof that change can be slow.
Michael Bell watches the video of last night's shooting in a very personal way.
I saw a family member watch her boyfriend or brother get shot right in front of her, and she was jumping up and down.
Bell wasn't there when an officer shot Jacob Blake, but the video brought back some feelings from 16 years ago.
I remember how emotional, traumatic it was from Michael's mother and Michael's sister.
Kenosha police killed Bell's son, Michael Jr., during a traffic stop in 2004.
An officer mistakenly hooked his gun on a car mirror. Thought it was my son, made a claim that he has my gun, and another officer walked up between him and the man, put his gun directly to my son's head and killed him right in front of his mother and sister.
Since that moment, Bell has not stopped fighting for changes in the Kenosha Police Department. Back then, police departments could investigate their own officer-involved shooting. In 2014, he helped change state law to require an outside agency investigate police shootings in Wisconsin.
You need to look at it and not blame, but find the root cause and figure out how to change it.
The Madison School District announced today it'll start the school year this fall virtually.
Interim Superintendent Jane Belmore says the decision came as local cases continue to surge, and public health officials provide guidance on how they expect schools to open safely.
I think whatever measures you put, it's not going to work.
We agreed 100% with it. We didn't want to really expose our kids.
There's more to school than just books and learning.
What's the district doing right now to make sure kids who may not have reliable internet access don't fall through the cracks?
Well, thank you for asking that question, and you're exactly right, as all the literature points to. The students who are traditionally falling behind and in the achievement piece during virtual learning, they have two falling more behind. So as a district, what we started doing last spring, we jumped out and began to make sure that all students had access to technology.
So Dr. Pothoff, you're a dad, you have young kids. How would you feel about sending your kids back to school right now?
Yeah, well, I can tell you what's actually going to happen. So we're in a school district where they're able to do hybrid learning for elementary education, and that's where my girls are at. And I feel pretty comfortable with it. They're going to be able to physically distance. There's going to be 12 kids in a classroom, one teacher, no moving around, no recess, no lunch. And like I mentioned, there is this tremendous benefit to in-person education that I'd love to give my kids. I feel like the school district we're in are taking those appropriate precautions, so we're willing to give it a try.
We wanted to help parents with kids at home. We went right to the experts, the families who've been teaching from home for years. First up,
get the kids involved. I make a list for them every day of certain tasks they need to get done.
With online learning, if students don't engage, then they can't make progress alongside of their peers.
Professor Rich Halverson works in UW's Department of Education Leadership. He says parents will be integral in their kids' education by simply being involved.
So pods are essentially small groups of students that are getting together with a private teacher or a private tutor to enhance their learning experience. It's a new strategy that parents are looking into in lieu of having in-person classes.
Tasker knows that isolation earlier this spring was necessary, but she says her two kids going into 7th and 9th grade this year are still feeling the effects of that loneliness.
That isolation was temporary, and that isolation in and of itself has actually had harmful consequences, which includes the deterioration of my kids' mental health.
In a year when so little was normal, we came together to provide a little piece of normalcy for the Madison Metropolitan School District's graduating class of 2020, a class that was born to make history.
We were born in a time of unrest during 9/11. We had code red drills and learned protocols for school intruders.
Whatever it is, you will have to put yourself on the line. And sometimes it won't work out.
As an immigrant, I arrived to this country 4 years ago, not knowing English or how the system even worked. Thanks to the wonderful help of our school, I learned how to speak the language and understand it. Graduating helps me show everyone that anything is possible. Si yo pude, tú puedes. If I did it, you can do it.
Well done, class of 2020. You were born to make history. It's your moment.
I hereby certify that the students presented today
have met all the requirements for graduation
as set forth in board policy and are ready to receive their high school diplomas.
There was definitely a sense of panic and confusion because we really didn't know exactly what was happening.
Tonight, we're sorting through that confusion as we follow breaking news from the UW campus. Classes are going virtual. 2 residence halls are quarantined and most buildings are closed for the next 2 weeks.
That quarantine starts right now at 10 o'clock, but it all happened fast, just in the last couple of hours, and it led to this. A lot of students reacting by just stocking up.
When we got here just before 8 o'clock, there was a steady stream of students, a lot of confusion about what was going on, because at that point, this quarantine was just rumors.
All right now, Zach Sherman is a freshman from Wilton, Connecticut, and he joins us now live. Zach, thanks for being with us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's a real honor.
Well, so you're in one of these dorms. You're locked down right now. What are you able to physically do? You're just kind of there, right? You can't go anywhere.
We can go to the bathroom, we can walk up and down the halls, and we can sit in our dorms. That's pretty much it. None of us knew that we would be in a quarantine for 2 weeks. Okay. So once we found out, all my friends and I ran out of the dorm, went to the supermarket, got a lot of food, and we're just waiting to see what's going to come next.
Thanks for joining us on this election night in America.
We have a lot to get to tonight.
Donald J. Trump.
We're going to invest in rural America.
Dr. Jill Biden.
Well, hello, Wisconsin.
Yeah, the voting wrapped up in that downtown Des Moines location.
Amy Reed has this News 3 Now reality check.
This is true. That makes this one mostly false.
Except for the masks and the social distancing, it's been great.
Our streaming app, Channel 3000 Plus.
The presidential race is still too close to call and will be for several more hours.
We only may be at halftime.
I'm so glad you're all with us.
Well, this is really a historic win for the Madison School District.
The state is expected to certify the county's results on Tuesday.
We will now appoint 2 electors.
You know which parts of Wisconsin will go for President Trump and which parts will go for Joe Biden. You might want to think again. We're finding places that routinely turn red or blue might not be so dependable in 2020. Our Amy Reed has the story.
No matter what they say about where they're strong or weak, look at where their travel schedule takes them.
Franklin sees how Wisconsin's political preferences shift over the years and how campaigns respond to those changes. In 2016, candidate Trump did well in northern and western counties, and that alignment continued for Governor Walker in the 2018 gubernatorial race.
A pair of campaign ads feel like a harmless infomercial, but they feature plenty of mistruths about Joe Biden's health care plans. Amy Reed has this News 3 Now reality check.
Attention, fellow seniors.
These 2 ads.
Let's turn off the noise.
Star the same person and make many of the same false claims about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's health care plans.
Their plan could lead to hospitals being closed.
This is false. The article they cite for this talks about the impact of Medicare for All, which is not Joe Biden's plan.
I think there's an incredible amount of mis and disinformation.
Wisconsin Elections Commission Administrator Megan Wolf is concerned about the level of confidence in this year's election.
It's a very controlled, deliberate process.
You probably saw this picture. It's from right here in Wisconsin, but you may not have seen its correction. In this News 3 Now investigation in partnership with Wisconsin Watch, Naomi Coles shows us why the misinformation spread and why it is so hard to stop.
Corruption on the part of the postmaster.
That post depicting post office boxes piled in a Wisconsin lot was presented as voter suppression. Fact checks would eventually show it wasn't.
And you can see it kind of take on a life of its own.
We teamed up with Wisconsin Watch to show you just how that played out. It starts on August 14th with a post on Reddit. 90 minutes later, another Reddit post pops up. Neither gets a lot of traction. An hour later comes this first super spreader. A Florida-based activist tweets it out. In all, it's retweeted more than 80,000 times. A screenshot of the tweet migrates to Facebook and Instagram. Actors, influencers, and commentators share and retweet it. A lot of the spread happens over the weekend. Fact checks didn't come out until Monday.
An economist I spoke to recently told me that the Trump administration's approach to trade has marked us as, quote, dangerously unpredictable to our partners. What steps are you going to take to repair those relationships?
Well, first of all, as you know, 20% of Americans live in rural America, and
They're fed and fuel the rest of you feed and fuel the rest of the country.
Voting's one of the most important things you can do, and I feel really strongly about that.
Wisconsin voters have already shattered absentee and early in-person voting records.
Today, polling places are following health and safety guidelines with social distancing and plenty of hand sanitizer. And election officials are urging patience. They say ballot counting could stretch into tomorrow and possibly beyond that. We have team coverage all night as election results do start rolling in.
We're still waiting to see if we hit the nearly 93% voter turnout that we saw here in Madison in November of 2018. Currently, that number sits at 67%. That's a total of both absentee and in-person ballots processed so far. We find Jamie Perez at a polling place with more on how in-person voting is going.
Well, here at Elver Park right now, things are actually pretty slow and pretty quiet for the most part. Here at Elver, people usually vote inside of the pavilion, but this year, for the very first time, they've expanded the voting area outside to a tent where they can better comply with social distancing.
A lot of attention tonight, of course, on the presidential race, but you can't underestimate the importance of the state legislature races.
The decisions made at the state capitol could affect you even more than those in Washington. Our Amanda Quintana is downtown with what you should be watching for tonight. Amanda?
Yeah, well, there are about a dozen races that you should really pay close attention to tonight. Half of them are in the state Senate, the other half in the Assembly. And the reason to pay attention to them is because those are some of the races that Democrats think that they can flip. And in the last 10 years, we've only seen that happen once before in the last 10 years. So it could be really big if they flip a handful of those races.
The presidential race isn't the only election bringing people to the polls today. Locally, we're watching several different races. Brady Mallory joins us with what we're watching. Brady?
It's a big night here in Wisconsin. In addition to choosing who will run the country for the next 4 years, voters are making local decisions that will affect them for years to come.
Our entire News 3 Now team will be working to bring you live coverage throughout election night. We'll be streaming the latest local updates nonstop on channel3000.com, as well as on our streaming app. That's Channel 3000 Plus. Head to channel3000.com/apps to find your connection to our coverage.
Yeah, take a look at this 2016 results map. These 14 counties all have central count cities inside of them. That's where initial results won't show the whole picture, and it could take long into the night to get those full results.
So the reason we're seeing so many absentee ballots this year is because of the coronavirus. People are voting absentee more than they ever have before. Now, there is a pretty clear difference in which method you'll choose based on your party. When the Marquette Law School pollsters asked, the vast majority of Republicans were planning on voting in person. More Democrats voted absentee, either by mail or early in person.
With team coverage scattered across southern Wisconsin, the biggest race on the ballot tonight is for president.
Now, these are the numbers in Wisconsin. Also, convincing wins for a pair of Madison School District referendums, spending $317 million on building projects. That gets a resounding yes. The district held a press conference a few minutes ago about that decisive win.
But I want to thank our community for your unwavering commitment to help us pass 2 successful referendums.
And let's go to Jamie Perez, who has more information about this referendum. Jamie?
Right, so now that this has passed, we wanted to look into what does this mean for all of you at home, and what does the timeline look like for the future? Well, first of all, your property taxes are going to increase. For the first referendum in each of the 4 years, property taxes will increase by $80 over the previous year. Now, on the second referendum, it's going to add an additional $140 per year for an average homeowner.
But we do know that here in Madison, we've already set a record for a presidential election. As you mentioned, I'm joined with the Madison City Clerk, Mary Beth Witzel-Bale here. So tell me about the numbers you saw even as of just 6 p.m. today.
This race between Novak and Marion is one of about a dozen where Democrats think they could flip the seat. Amanda Quintana is outside the Capitol with more on what could affect the makeup of the state legislature. Amanda?
Yes, well, in the last 10 years, we've only seen Democrats flip a seat once. So we're watching to see if they can do it again and how many seats they can flip.
74% of precincts reporting Mark Pocan, the incumbent, cruising on his way to another term in the United States Congress. We have the congressman joining us live now from our nation's capital.
Even Milwaukee County, all of their absentees, they're going to release at once, probably around 4 or 5 a.m.
Yeah, Matt, there's still a lot of votes out there.
Yeah, I don't have many fingernails left, I got to say, but
there are some screwy things going on with the way that the results are being reported with, Milwaukee reporting 93% of the precincts, but only about 40% of the votes that were cast in 2016.
On the 7th day of the presidential recount in Dane County, every municipality but Madison is finished.
As the week has gone on, it's gotten faster. I mean, the observers know what they're looking for, the tabulators.
The work is done here at the Monona Terrace after more than a week of recounting ballots. On Saturday, President Trump tweeted that his team found many illegal votes and a lawsuit would follow. McDonald says the recount found no evidence of voter fraud in Dane County.
Today, lawyers for President Trump were in both state and federal court trying to change the election's outcome. Our Amy Reed is live to explain each side's case. Amy?
They took more than 2 hours stating their case today, asking the judge to declare the election void and instead allow either for the legislature to appoint electors or for a new election, a change from previous asks.
Wisconsin cast its 10 electoral votes for President of the United States of America to Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
This is News 3 Now at 6.
A destructive night in downtown Madison sparked by the arrest of an activist who was using a bullhorn and carrying a bat downtown yesterday afternoon. Protesters tore down the Forward statue from its post at the Capitol and also removed a monument of Colonel Hans Christian Hegg, who was known for his strong stance against racism. Alder Mike Revere says the statues are now in safekeeping by the city. Democratic Senator Tim Carpenter says he was assaulted after taking a photo of protesters last night. Windows were broken at the Capitol and the Tommy Thompson Center, and federal agents are helping investigate who threw a Molotov cocktail into the city-county building. Just in the last half hour, the ATF is offering a reward of $5,000 for information leading to the identification, apprehension, and conviction of a man believed to be responsible for firebombing the city-county building. If you have any information, you are asked to contact Madison area Crime Stoppers. The Forward statue has been outside the state capitol since the 1890s, serving as an emblem of progress for women in the state. Protesters say they removed that statue because they don't feel the state is moving forward.
I'm happy they're down because where is the progression in Wisconsin if we are living in the most racist state in the nation for African Americans? Where is the progression in Wisconsin when Milwaukee is the most segregated state in the nation? The state of Wisconsin is false flagging its values. These statues up here represent a progression that African Americans don't have.
Multiple media outlets reported the Forward statue was left in the middle of State Street while the Colonel Hegg statue was beheaded, dragged down the street, and thrown into Lake Monona. In response to the unrest, Governor Tony Evers has activated the National Guard to support police in Madison. The governor toured the damage to the Capitol today and said what happened last night presented a stark contrast to the peaceful protests that have been seen across Wisconsin in recent weeks. He said in a statement that the protests resulted in serious injury to bystanders as well as significant damage to state property. He says the National Guard will serve in a, quote, limited authorization meant to make sure people can exercise their First Amendment rights while ensuring the safety of members of the public and state buildings and infrastructure. And in the last hour, Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway addressed the violence, saying she is expediting investigations into the criminal acts that happened. She also announced she will be introducing a resolution to terminate the contract between the Madison School District and the police department.
Madison City and school district leaders agreed to end the contract for school resource officers, known as SROs, the police officers that are stationed in high schools, calling for a new approach to managing conflicts in our schools and supporting student needs.
The resolution will be introduced tomorrow to terminate the contract before the start of the next school year. The school board is expected to vote on it on Monday. And we do have team coverage on other responses to the protest and damage tonight. Amy Reed spoke with Republican leaders, including Assembly Speaker Robin Voss. But first, Adam Duxter shares the Dane County Executive's message. Adam?
Well, Charlotte, Dane County Executive Joe Parisi says, well, the damage done here at the city-county building, as well as to the state capitol, also don't fall under his jurisdiction. He wants to send a message tonight to those responsible to say what happened is not acceptable.
A security surveillance photo shows the small group of individuals breaking windows before setting fire inside the city-county building in downtown Madison, forcing city engineers and the 911 operations center out today.
We didn't know right away until, later on in the middle of the night.
Dane County Executive Joe Parisi says his initial concern was for those inside.
The city-county building houses part of the county jail. There are 180 inmates in that building, and when someone tries to burn that down, that's pretty serious.
Today, broken glass, charred trash cans, and bricks are what's left of the damage. Parisi calling the actions taken a recipe for disaster.
I think what's important now is that everyone step back and take a deep breath. There's a lot of justified emotion out there, and people have some legitimate gripes, but we have to look at where do we want to be as a community.
Parisi says despite that, he doesn't have control over the state's decision to call in the National Guard or even a say in the city's police response to the violent protesters. When I interviewed him today, he still hadn't talked with Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway, but wants those protesting to know their actions will have consequences.
Lives could have been lost last night. So again, people need to step back and take a breath and assess where we want to go. Where do we want to be as a community, and how do we constructively get there? Because starting buildings on fire is not going to get us anyplace.
And as you can see, those windows that were broken last night are boarded up today. Well, work on the inside of the building has started as well. Now, Republican lawmakers have been critical of the county executive as well as the governor and the mayor of Madison. Amy Reed heard from them today and joins us live from downtown.
This morning, Republicans said the governor and the mayor of Madison have been all talk and no action when it comes to these protests, and that's what's led to the violence and the destruction of state property. Even though the mayor and the governor have addressed the protesting, they say they are just empty words with no consequences, though there have been some arrests for looting weeks ago. But they warned violence will deter action. Today, Assembly Speaker Voss told us he's open to reform, but he said he doesn't want to rush it, saying a legislative session likely wouldn't come until after the election. He said he wants to hear from stakeholders, but their requests should be specific.
A lot of the ideas that are being brought forward aren't necessarily applicable to Wisconsin, right? We already have pretty rigorous training, but we can do better. We already have the ability to hold police accountable, but we can do better.
Democrats, meanwhile, are also condemning the violence, particularly toward a member of their caucus. However, the Democratic leader in the Senate said the sad part is that all of this could be prevented. The Republicans who control the legislature have refused to act to address the systemic racism that threatens the fabric of our society. They won't even acknowledge it. Voss said today he is willing to address problems by increasing training and accountability for law enforcement, but he said 99% of police officers are good. He said they're human and make mistakes.
Dane County Sheriff Dave Mahoney also addressed the overnight destruction. He's calling on organizations Freedom Inc. and Urban Triage, who have been leading recent Madison protests, to speak out against the violence.
I call on them today to publicly disparage these acts of violence, because it is their silence and failure to denounce and stand against these extreme acts of violence which endanger the lives of the very people they advocate for and the children of families impacted by these issues.
We're finding out new information about the series of events that preceded last night's protest in downtown Madison. 28-year-old activist Devon Reed Johnson was arrested after video shows that he was disrupting restaurant customers, shouting with a megaphone and threatening them with a bat. But from what business owners along State Street told us today, this had been happening for several days prior to last night. Jamie Perez joins us live with more on what led to last night's events.
Well, pretty much all the businesses that I spoke with today were saying the same thing, that for the past several nights, Johnson has come in, he's harassed them, he's demanded free food and drinks, and today I spoke with a couple of them that have kind of helped piece together what the last several nights have looked like.
to record it. Don't change it. I don't give a about your camera, bro.
This is the video of the man who was arrested yesterday, which sparked protests last night in downtown Madison.
Told us to not take the board because we're gonna smash it.
Mayor McTabbie, the owner of the Dubai Mediterranean restaurant and bar, said this video was taken about a week ago and that this has been happening for several days to multiple State Street businesses.
I don't know how to say it. I mean, they have the right to protest, but they don't have the right to damage.
Start beating your ass right now, then what?
Multiple business owners say he came into their business with a bat, threatening them too.
They came in here and, you know, we had a discussion and, you know, we came to a resolution. But then at the end, it didn't seem like it was enough. And they kind of demanded that we gave them free food and free beer.
William Dye with the Irish Pub said he supports the protests and the cause, but he speaks for many businesses who didn't feel comfortable speaking with us on camera that what happened last night.
When these violent acts occur, it totally dilutes any sort of message.
Many businesses said they don't want to talk about what happened because they're scared of retaliation. McTabbie said he's now sleeping at his restaurant to protect it from further damage.
We were afraid from the damage. I was afraid from one more damage because insurance is not going to take care of us anymore.
All the business owners that I spoke with said they support the nationwide movement demanding change, but that they want it to be done peacefully.
We heard you. Government heard you. They want to take decision against everything that's happening. But decision cannot be made overnight. You guys want to protest? I'm a protester. I am a protester. Me, my family, we are all protesters. But there is way to protest.
A lot of these businesses that I spoke with today said safety is their #1 priority, and they're hoping that the city can do something to protect their businesses in the future.
Jamie Perez reporting tonight. Jamie, thank you. And we will continue to keep you up to date on everything that is happening in downtown Madison. Our team will be there tonight to cover any new developments, both on air at News 3 Now at 10 and online at channel3000.com. Well, finally some sunshine in the forecast tomorrow, but we've been hearing some rumbles of thunder and some rain coming down.
Yeah, actually, we've got some showers and thunderstorms moving through the Madison area as we speak. Here's the live view from the Edgewater Skycam. Looks like the heaviest rain is now shifted south of downtown Madison, whereas the view from the WISC Skycam raining pretty hard here, and we've been hearing some rumbles of thunder overhead. You can see on high-resolution radar these thunderstorms drifting toward the southeast, one heavier cell over the west side of Madison right now. The only severe weather is back in Iowa, severe thunderstorm warning in parts of northeastern Iowa, but I don't expect these storms to be severe. The rain has cooled temperatures down into the upper 60s here in Madison, where the sunshine has returned. Temperatures are mainly in the 70s. Dew point temperatures still in the middle to upper 50s, so it's not terribly humid out there. Skies will clear out tonight after the rain ends, then look for a sunny and warmer day tomorrow with a high of 81. But heat and humidity build on Friday along with thunderstorm chances, and that'll be here right through the 4th of July holiday. I'll have more details and weather in a few minutes.
Madison police are investigating an attempted homicide on the east side last night that left an 18-year-old with a graze wound to his head. Just before 8 p.m., the victim was riding in the passenger seat of a car driving on South Stoughton Road when police say someone in an SUV drove up behind the vehicle on Cottage Grove Road and started shooting. The victim was taken to the hospital, and he told investigators he believed more than one gun was used. The SUV is described as dark in color and possibly a Volkswagen. Developing tonight, Milwaukee police say 2 missing teenage girls were never at a house that a crowd set on fire last night in response to a perceived lack of action by officers to find the girls. Neighbors said they believe the 13 and 15-year-old girls were being trafficked for sex. 3 people were shot during the unrest, 2 14-year-old children and a 24-year-old man. They were not shot by police. 10 police officers and a firefighter were also injured. The girls have since been found and are safe with their families. Investigators say the girls denied being at the house or knowing anyone who lived there, and there was no evidence human trafficking was happening in that home. Coming up next at 6, Democrats announce how they plan to keep people safe for the Democratic National Convention in August amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are learning the Democratic National Convention in Milwaukee in August will be almost entirely virtual. Democrats will use live broadcast and online streaming during the convention scheduled for August 14th through the 20th. Today, party officials confirmed former Vice President Joe Biden will accept the presidential nomination in person, but it's not clear whether there will be a significant in-person audience there to see it. Delegates will be asked not to travel to Milwaukee. This comes as Wisconsin health officials confirm more than 400 new COVID-19 cases today. Overall, the state has seen more than 25,800 confirmed cases, with 78% of patients fully recovered. Dane County health officials confirmed 71 new cases today, and that is the county's highest single-day increase to date. And we are no longer seeing a downward trajectory of COVID-19 cases over the last 2 weeks. 4.3% of new tests came back positive today, the highest percentage since Sunday's 4.6. UW Health is part of a new clinical trial working to combat COVID-19 among patients. The institution will be testing a potential new treatment for the virus at their facilities. Researchers from UW Health say at this point there is still so much unknown about the virus.
We're really trying to understand the longevity of the virus in the body. We're trying to understand our immunity to it. And all of those things are going to come into play in terms of advancing our knowledge scientifically as we're developing new research and new solutions.
Nugent says the process to become a clinical site typically takes months, but given the urgency, UW Health was approved in less than 3 weeks. We'll be right back.
Some thunderstorms are rolling through southern Dane County. Just got a report of some pea-sized hail with the strongest thunderstorm around Watts Road on the west side of Madison. And you can see here at the WISC Skycam looking off toward the northeast, the heaviest rain now starting to shift southeast of at least the west side of Madison. Some clearing out to the north, but still raining here. And you can see these thunderstorm cells that are popping up on high-resolution radar. Each of these cells possibly producing some small hail as they push off toward the south and east. For the most part, they're just producing some heavy downpours and not a terribly large amount of lightning. This cell here over Madison producing some lightning, as well as some cells out to the west. But so far, these storms have stayed below severe limits across southern Wisconsin. I expect them to do so. There's one storm cell in eastern Iowa was severe earlier. But notice to the north, things starting to settle down. And as the atmosphere starts to cool down, once we get past sunset, these showers and storms will fall apart like they did last night. Now, as we look at future track precipitation for the next round of precipitation, which will be from Friday into Friday night, computer models are actually backing off on some of the rain. Now, there probably will be some areas that pick up an inch or two of rain and some heavier thunderstorms on Friday, but it looks like the more persistent areas of rain will develop just to our east. So the cold front responsible for the showers and thunderstorms will come through late afternoon or in the evening, and for the most part would keep the rainfall amounts down here. 3 things you need to know in the forecast. We're back to the 80s tomorrow with sunshine, and then the humidity ramps up on Friday and will be with us through the weekend and through all of next week. That'll also lead to some thunderstorm chances from Friday into Friday evening. Storm Prediction Center has a slight risk of severe thunderstorms over southern and eastern Wisconsin with hail, high winds, and heavy rainfall the main threat. So we have an alert day in the forecast for Friday, and mainly Friday evening for a chance for some strong to severe thunderstorms. Temperatures right now in the 60s where the rain has cooled the air, like here in Madison, where there's some sunshine. Temperatures are mainly in the 70s, but not a lot of really warm air around here yet. And the reason why is the jet stream right now is just temporarily coming in from the north and northwest, but that jet stream is bulging to the north just out to the west of us. So while our temperatures are fairly mild for this time of year in this little trough of low pressure bringing some shower and thunderstorm chances, notice the heat starting to build out to the west. Temperatures in the upper 80s and lower 90s all the way to the U.S.-Canadian border from Montana southward, and that's the heat will be spreading in our direction. The air not too humid right now. With time, that will also change. So over the next 10 days, you notice those temperatures above normal every single day, beginning on Friday and lasting pretty much through the 4th of July holiday. For tomorrow, a sunny and slightly warmer day with a high temperature of 81. Thunderstorm chances start to come back early on Friday morning, mainly in the western part of our viewing area early in the morning, then a chance for a shower or thunderstorm during the day and into the evening before we clear out. Again, rainfall amounts will be spotty. Some areas could pick up an inch or so of rain, some areas less than that. And as we look at the 7 to 10 day forecast, look for those temperatures to remain in the mid 80s all the way through the 4th of July holiday with just slight chances for thunderstorms each day.
And coming up in sports, Frank Kaminsky, one of the Big Ten's best in the last 10 years. The latest honor the Badger Great can add to his credentials is next on News 3 Now. A national championship game appearance, 2 Final Fours, the Naismith Player of the Year, a consensus first-team All-American, the Wooden Award, goes on and on for Frank Kaminsky. Today, the list got a little longer. The former Badger was named to the Big Ten Network's all-decade first team, which is a no-brainer with his credentials. In 4 years at Wisconsin, he was part of 115 wins and averaged nearly 19 points and 8 rebounds per game as a senior. 1 year ago today, Giannis was named the NBA's MVP, joining Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the only other Milwaukee Buck to take home that honor. After the announcement, Giannis vowed to win the award again, win an NBA title, and become an even better player.
2 years ago, I had the goal in my head that I'm going to be the best player in the league. Yeah, I'm going to do whatever it takes to help my team win, and I'm going to win the MVP. And every day that I step on the floor, I always think about my dad, and that motivates me.
With Major League Baseball officially back, it's time to check in on the favorites to win it all this season. For entertainment purposes only, Caesars Sportsbook lists the Brewers as 40-to-1 odds to win the World Series. But remember, anything can happen when you're playing 60 games in 66 days. And some encouraging news for high school girls wrestling. While the WIAA didn't sanction the sport, it did vote unanimously to add a state girls wrestling tournament starting in the 2021-2022 season. Until there is enough participation to be its own sport, girls will be able to wrestle against boys during the regular season, and then during the postseason, they'll have their own tournament. So steps are finally being made.
That's spectacular.
Step in the right direction.
Good. Can't wait to see this. Thank you very much, Zach. And here's Gary with the final check of your forecast.
We're watching some showers and thunderstorms roll through the west side of Madison. This is the view from our WISC Skycam looking toward Fitchburg, where some heavy rain showers are coming down, along with a little bit of lightning there. These storms will die out pretty quickly this evening. Temperatures right now, upper 60s to around 70. High temperatures tomorrow, back to the lower 80s as sunshine returns, and then warm weather for all of next week through the 4th of July holiday.
All right, thank you, Gary, and thank you for joining us. Enjoy your evening, and we'll see you back here at 10.